Serious, former incels of Reddit. What brought you the ideology and what took you out? You/deleted responded. I had lots of chauvinistic views towards women. Them being more emotional and not doing anything productive. It is men that do all the work, while women just need to be pretty and so on and so on. I was failing lots of classes in college and that kind of woke me up that maybe I might need help. Not the fact that I would spend literally days without talking to someone in college. So I went through a crazy self-improvement phase. Studied self-help books like it was my job. Meditation, joined every club I could think of. Found out women are into some really cool stuff. Became friends with some of them. I would consider myself to be still an incel, without the ideology. I mean, that is the point of it, there is no hope. But still, I could improve myself in the way that 1. I am aware now that I am an insecure asshole. 2. I respect women as human beings. So happy end, I guess. Edit. Thank you all for all the nice and encouraging comments. Edit 2. Did not expect the comment to become so popular. I regret the phrasing of there is no hope. You should not go into self-improvement in expectation of quick results. It might take years, but anyone struggling out there, please get help, see a therapist. You only got this one life, so you might as well try your best. I might get laid or not, I am still living an awesome and meaningful life. You/deleted responded. Oh god, this was definitely me in high school. I was the creep-ass weirdo who, by the time I graduated, had asked every single girl out. I literally had no idea what I was doing wrong. I was practicing all the classic southern gentleman things that I was supposed to, yet having no luck. Think. My lady, but only slightly less cringy. It wasn't until I got to college and went on a period of self-discovery that I knew the error of my ways. The first, and most important, concept that I learned was that women aren't sex dispensaries that you deposit nice coins into and get puss in return. They have to choose you. I still kept doing nice things for girls because that's the way I was raised, but I removed my expectations for getting anything in return. The second concept was making myself attractive, and it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. A nice basic buzzcut suddenly turned my oily mop of hair into a clean, presentable style. Went clean shaven on facial hair too, because all I could grow was a piddly pubic hair looking ass beard. Got a benzoyl peroxide solution to start working on the acne. Marching band was my form of exercise to stay fit and avoid the freshman 15. Boom, done. Had an amazing F for 3 years before we broke up to go our separate ways, mutually. It's amazing what a different perspective in life can give you. You/Spiff2268 responded. I don't think I was an incel per se, but I'll tell my story. I went to a military school. It was a boarding school, but we had a good number of students who lived in the area who came to school during the day and went home afterwards. All the girls that attended fell into this category, obviously. Now the number of guys there far outnumbered the girls. My senior year there was 30 girls and something like 250 to 300 guys. So, yeah, the girls had their pick of the litter, so to speak. And tall, skinny, goofy looking, shy, socially awkward me, who never had much luck with the ladies out in the real world, didn't stand a chance. The phrase slim to none didn't apply at all. My chances were straight up none at that place. So of course the girls gravitated towards the guys who were good looking, or athletic, or had the gift of good gab, and never said 2 words to me. And of course I resented that. In my mind they were all a bunch of bitches and or stuck-up whores. But then one day the all-in-a voice said, "Dude, you're an asshole, you know that? Can you honestly say that if the situation was reversed you wouldn't be doing the exact same thing?" And I thought, yeah, if that were the case LD definitely be making time with all the hotties. So after that I just let it go. Still didn't help me out with the girls there, but I felt much better about myself after that. You/Lawn Shipper responded. I was raised in what can only be called a matriarchal family, the older brother to twin girls, my father and I always just kept our heads down and went with the flow because it was easier to do what my mother and sisters wanted than to stick up for ourselves. This eventually turned into feelings of inadequacy, a lack of self-confidence, and putting others before myself, so much so that it would end up hurting me, essentially, setting myself aflame to keep others warm. The incel red pill movement was this mind-blowing idea to me. It spoke to the experience I had growing up, and I fell for it. It felt like being part of a resistance against the way I was raised, and that group ultimately led to me seeking counseling for depression when that hadn't turned me around and fixed all my problems with my upbringing. I think a lot of incels have been, or feel they have been, hurt in some deep, intimate way by a woman and just need to understand that healing comes from within, not from extracting vengeance. Ironically enough, It's my wife that's helped me overcome my upbringing more than anything else. You/deleted responded. I have shared this story on Reddit many times. I never considered myself an incel, but considered myself a nice guy instead. I was a virgin until I was 23 years old, and have had many failed attempts at getting a girlfriend. Many times, the girl was even interested in me, but my confidence was too low to pursue them, and they eventually became disinterested and dated somebody else instead. After hearing "you're like a brother to me" too many times, I just started cutting those girls out of my life. Still, every time I met a new girl, I kept trying to be best friends first, then trying to date them, over and over, like an insane person. Either way, in comes my current girlfriend. Met her at work, fell for her the moment I saw her. Things were hitting off and were going great between us. As usual, we became good friends, and then, I found out that she had a boyfriend. At that point, I was going to cut her out, but I made one of the most significant choices in my life instead. I realized that she was an amazing person, and that I wanted her in my life even if I would never get the chance to date her, even if I had to spend the rest of my life alone, and I believed I would at the time. Well, it turns out that her current boyfriend was a burnout and she wanted out of the relationship. I stuck to my guns and didn't pursue her, just helped her move out, and made sure that she settled into her new place comfortably since her family was on the other side of the country. Instead, she aggressively pursued me, and ignored my romantic incompetence. She was my first kiss, I burped in her mouth by accident and was instantly busted, took my V card, and in 2 weeks we will be celebrating our 4-year anniversary. You/273 degrees Kelvin responded. I might be considered one. Not sure if I am. 23 and still a virgin who's never been in a relationship. If you go by the mindset, resentment, misanthropy, self-pity, self-loathing, misogyny, racism, a sense of entitlement to sex, one don't really fit much of it. I don't buy the bullshit. I'm not owed sex, I don't hate women at all. We're all different and have different tastes and what we want. Women aren't a vending machine that if you insert enough nice, you're owed sex. But I guess I easily could have. I have depression, anxiety, and confidence issues definitely. I've always had a more self-hatred type and never really tried for relationships. But LVE been working on improving myself. Spent a few years with 0 friends. But now LVE made large steps, LVE made a good group of friends, go to local hobby meets, eating healthier, seeing a counselor at college. And I've made major improvements to my confidence as well. I'm bisexual and my recent advances have mostly been among other males, but nonetheless, people I've made positive impressions on and whom LVE become well liked by. Not just being nice for the purpose of sex. If you're like that, you're not a nice person. So I'm not really sure if I am or was. Frankly, it kind of terrifies me that I could. I don't think I am a monster, but at the same time being viewed that way even though I'm slowly improving and I'm not misogynistic is sad in its own right. You/Kalitos_Macarena responded. Decided that I wasn't happy with myself. Quit gaming and joined the gym, best decision of my life, which just kind of set off a chain reaction of self-improvement. Learned how to take care of myself, how to properly do my hair, etc. Can safely say that I'm much different to how I was a year ago. I've been in a relationship with a beautiful girl both in terms of personality and looks. So far these 2 months with her have been the best of my life, smiley face, hoping it will last. Edit. Just realized I didn't fully answer the question. I guess what drove me to it was losing all hope somewhere along the line that LD ever find someone that was interested in me and blaming everyone but myself. Also realizing how superficial society in general is nowadays, which I still believe to an extent. You/I had to registering 6 responded. Late to the party here, and I would never go as far as to say I was a full-on incel, but for a period of time I was definitely extremely sexually frustrated and really struggled in the dating world. Honestly, this is probably not the popular answer, but here it is. I realized that just like life, dating isn't fair. That girl you've got a crush on who already has a boyfriend, you may very well be a better person than her boyfriend, and would treat her better and everything, but guess what? It doesn't matter, because dating isn't fair. You're a decent guy, and you volunteer at soup kitchens and give money to charity and treat people as you wish to be treated, and this other guy gets 10x the amount of female attention that you do, despite treating women like they're idiots. Guess what? Doesn't matter, because dating isn't fair. Honestly, once you begin to sort of accept that, it makes everything better. You let go of a lot of the bitterness and this hatred for how the world is and just learn to simply be the best that you can be. It makes you a more pleasant person to be around and, not coincidentally, increases your dating success as well. You/Thunderbolt Kiju responded. I wouldn't say incel since this is when I was like 13, 14, but whatever. I remember agreeing with the, at the time, meme mentality of other friend zone haha. I mean, if you've proven yourself and she only sees you as a friend, it's her fault, right? Welp. I saw another meme that showed the opposite reaction. Where it's just a girl who enjoys their friendship with the other person, they just don't see anything romantic. And then the guy gets mad and cuts her out of his life and etc. Seeing that made me realize, wait. Not everyone has to act all lovey-dovey with the opposite sex. Maybe they just want to be buds regardless of emotions. So, yeah. I dropped off the incel mentality pretty quickly. You/PM_ME_UR_frat_at responded. In high school I sorta was a incel in 9th-10th grade. My mother from a young age put me in religious schools with small class sizes and I didn't have much opportunity outside of class because the activities I was involved in were either from the school, or mostly catered to guys. Ended up grabbing life by the balls, telling my parents that I was switching to public education, and I ended up switching in the middle of my 11th year, and plopped myself down at a random lunch table. Ended up going to prom that year, making a lot of friends, and having a good time. I don't think my life would be as successful now without that experience. My advice? It could be you, it could be your environment, or it could just be chance. Keep trying, and remember that insanity is trying the exact same thing over and over again, so mix it up. You/Seductive Herimale responded. I think I was incelish, not sure TBH, but I did have the tendency to blame others for my problems. After a while I realized that I couldn't live life blaming others and never taking responsibility. It was during the summer of 2016 that I took the first steps towards leaving that mindset behind me. I became a lot more conscious of what I ate and how much I ate. I started grooming myself and buying clothes that fit me better. Went to the gym a few days a week and actually made some new friends at the gym. After a few months of dieting, working out, and dressing better, some of my female coworkers started asking me if I had plans for the weekend. I got a lot more attention from girls whenever I went out with friends, and had a few romantic interests, none of which worked out. Life's been a lot better since I made that change, and it's embarrassing looking back at how I was 2 years ago. I've lost a total of 120 pounds, but gained some weight back recently, big move and other things. Incels can change, they're just too stubborn to want to make any changes to because they believe they should be loved for who they are rather than how they look. I'm all about personality, but I also don't want someone who doesn't take care of themselves. You/Deleted responded. I get told that I smile a lot for an angry person, and this sentiment doesn't come from randoms. I've heard it from my mom, dad, friends, but I digress. The point is, that I was an incel for the longest time. All throughout high school and even up until my early 20s. Once I realized that I was angry at myself for a number of reasons, mostly because my life didn't play out like I planned it, I let go. Now when things don't work out I don't get angry or filled with resentment towards people I feel have slighted me, instead I go numb. The logic behind this is that I wouldn't ever be mad at a fish for swimming, it's just doing what it knows, so when someone slights me I think to myself that person is just doing what it knows. Then, I assess the situation and make sure to tell the person how I feel, sometimes a little bit more confrontational than I should, but I'm working on that still, and based on my relationship with that person, I limit contact with them because I'm not going to let myself get treated poorly if I know that's how that person is going to act. On a side note, the reason I always smile is cause haters only wanna see you when you're down, so if you look like you're always winning, then they assume you are. You/The Man Who Pandas responded. I grew up around them. I never got as bad as some of the worst examples on the internet though, this was decades ago, mind you. I got lucky. I have some fortunate genetics, meaning I got a lot of chances with women, which was lucky because there were rarely second dates. Eventually I figured out how to be charming, after a lot of trial and error. I don't hang out with my old incel crowd anymore, we went different ways. They're still alone and lonely from what I see on Facebook. No one has any empathy for their struggle, so they just learned to deal with the pain. People vilify them when they're already at the bottom with no way to climb out. They're genuinely nice guys, but if we're being honest they aren't attractive physically and can't go down the path I did. Just sucks all around. You/It's Midge responded. I used to be an incel of sorts, not to the point where I literally despised women, but I was very resentful of them and had very shitty sexist opinions on things. This stemmed from my mother being the only woman in my life I really knew, and she split up with my dad when I was about 10, then held all his letter and calls to me from for over 2 years and just said that I guess he didn't care about me. She also was basically never home since she had me at 20. She said that I killed her fun stage of life, so she went to a bar around the corner every night for years and years. She would come home with different guys and make me talk to them, some for their looks, some for money to get more alcohol or drugs for the month. So with this as your only person to really base women on, it's hard to not get a jaded opinion. Luckily I met my amazing GF when I was 18 and moved out, and she, along with some help from a therapist, has really helped my views on women, which were really quite bad. I didn't know it was bad till my GF and I had a talk about a year in about if we would prefer a boy or girl baby, and I went basically ballistic about not having a girl. I'm pretty ashamed of the things I said, to know honest, saying that I don't want a girl mainly because all they do is get fucked and become a whore and get pregnant, so why not just have a boy who does the fucking? But I'm happy to say I can look back and know that I was very wrong and shitty and move it past it now. You/deleted responded. This was before there was a name for it, at least that I knew of, but when I was 17 I was friends with a guy who would be considered an incel. He was 16 at the time, never had any physical interaction with a woman, which I didn't think much of. After all, 16 ain't shit in the long run. He was actually pretty good looking and was extremely intelligent, and actually looks better now that a few years have gone by. His problem is that everyone was terrified he was going to shoot up a school, mainly because he made vague references to school shootings frequently. He was also a Nazi, he was argumentative, he constantly wanted to do illegal shit and said his life dream was to rob a pharmacy. He was also coldly clinical with everyone around him. Talking to him didn't feel like talking to a person, it felt like talking to a computer that's been programmed with militant racism and narcissism. He's about 20 now and, as far as I know, has never had a job or a girlfriend, because even though he seems to have calmed down, he still puts off a downright scary vibe. For the record, I hung out with him because I was young and stupid, and he always had alcohol. When he got suspended for posting on Facebook about clearing the halls with a shotgun, I made myself scarce. You/interior crocodemon responded. Figured out I was really trans, which caused my depression and lead to my feelings of envy and resentment of women. I was incapable of making a move on women because I couldn't understand why anyone would want a man, specifically me, to touch or be with them physically, despite the fact I'm pretty attractive and have been told this frequently. I did finally have a steady GF and regular sex at 26, but she was terribly depressed and I had to break it off because she was dragging me down with her. It took me 2 more years of on and off failing at dating with other women and trying to understand why I was so bitter and sexually frustrated to finally get to the bottom of my problems. I've talked to a lot of late-blooming trans women, and apparently they often fall into red pill or incel ideology for similar reasons. If you can't love yourself, and take care of yourself, and make your happiness a priority instead of a means to getting women, you will never have that. Independent happiness needs to be your sole goal. And incels place their happiness in someone else's hands. Because of that, they will never have it. You/Dr. Allen who responded. I was an incel for most of my youth, largely because I had an undeserved ego. I didn't work on myself in the least and assumed I was great and perfect the way I was. I thought the only reason women wouldn't be interested in such a smart, funny, and sweet guy like me was because they were shallow or stupid. Often I thought a combination of the two. After I went to college and had to face my shortcomings in the one area I was confident in, academics, I slowly began facing my other shortcomings. I had to face the reality that I'm not God's gift to the world. I grew to accept that I'm no better than any other person by virtue of being me. Women don't owe me interest just because I'm nice to them or make them laugh. I stopped viewing romance as a checklist. Do A, B, and C and bam, women L want you. That's a very shitty way to approach it, and that's how I used to do it. You/lived Devil 420 responded. Sort of in the works, but LVE always been a bit of an incel. I consider myself a nice person that never turned nice guy. I was always thinking why I could never get with a non while I hardly ever brushed my hair or shaved. I have my badge for work as a reminder. It wasn't until I lost my dad's mom, my dad, and finally my mom's mom that I hit my rock bottom. For about a year and a half I shut myself in and gained a little weight. It upsets me still that all it took for me to get the gears turning again was one of my friends to tell me how negative I am was. I still have a lot of work in front of me, but I don't plan on giving up. Best thing I can tell people is to clean up then speak up. Prioritize the small things until you end up doing them naturally, hair, teeth, posture, etc. After that you can work on things like the gym, clothes, and hobbies. Speaking up is rather simple, but doing that can be hard. I can't stress this enough, but just talk. Start small, even if it's just simple small talk. You will probably have many people you see on a daily basis that have little to nothing in common, but it will improve your social skills. Those social skills will end up finding you new friends, SOS, hobbies, and a lot more that have helped me from going back down. I still haven't gotten laid yet, but it doesn't bother as much since I feel a lot better and happier than I did. U/YA_boy_Satan_ himself responded. Like many other people, I didn't fit all the criteria, but I fit some. I was pissed off and wondering why no girls would talk to me. Every girl I asked out friend-zoned me. I drank a lot, stayed in my room playing video games, believing that my life should turn out better on its own. It didn't help that I had spent several years being abused by my stepmother, and was on the verge of suicide. My wake-up was a little different. I was struck by a driver who ran a stop sign while riding my bicycle home from work. On the ride to the hospital, I realized a couple things. 1. I never had any serious relationships in my life. 2. The void I was filling with video games was formed because I shut out anybody who ever tried to care. I was too afraid of being abandoned, as my father had done countless times. 3. I really didn't want to die. There were so many things I realized I wanted to do. In the end, I started phasing out video games, working out more, started a guitar making shop, and generally trying to be a better person. It's a shame I had to be hit by a car to find out. Edit. Clarified some things. U/sleepless shitposter responded. When I was in middle school, I started getting neckbeardy with women. I hadn't really had a girlfriend even to this point in my life. I always felt bad, felt like I was entitled to a girl because I wasn't a piece of shit, etc. Eventually, it actually paid off and I was in the unhappiest relationship of my life for a week. I realized that the reason I was single was because, even if only subconsciously, the idea of finding a woman doesn't really appeal to me. Long story short, don't get hooked on this idea of dating. If you don't find someone, you don't need someone. Clean yourself up and do something responsible with your life instead of stressing over women. U/deleted responded. Honestly, I get the appeal of heat MGTOW incel movements. It is true that family court is stacked heavily in favor of women. It is true that dating is stacked heavily in favor of women. It is true that issues related to men are swept under the table, written off as unimportant or even ridiculed by feminist movements. It is true that men are disproportionately valued for their wallets and women for their beauty. Neither is fair. But I am not MGTOW or incel. I am a happily married man. But guess what? Life isn't fair across the board. Nothing is equal. Wallowing in self-pity, surrounding yourself with others who want to follow these ideologies will get you nowhere. Make your own decisions. For me, it was I am perfectly happy to be single forever, unless I meet someone and it just works. Effectively MGTOW without the ideology, and being perfectly happy to change if I met someone. I am not saying this is the right thing to do, but my point is make your own decisions based on your own life and stay away from echo chambers. They will only make a bad situation worse. U/deleted responded. This will probably piss off a lot of personality is all that matters people, but I had plastic surgery. Nose, cheeks, and chin done. After that I got braces for the teeth. A couple of months later I started using Tinder again, used it for a year when I was ugly with 0 matches, and got 3 matches in 1 month, which is not a lot for some men, but I was hideous so it was a lot for me. Awkwardly lost my virginity to one of those girls. Since then LV been in 2 relationships, both ended because I cheated. They were not serious relationship TBH, and obviously I won't cheat if I'm going serious with a girl. Girls now act differently when I'm around is mind-blowing. Right now I'm using Tinder and getting at least 2 girls per month, so I'm getting a lot of casual sex, or at least a lot to a former unattractive man. I was 25 when I went under the knife and now I'm 29. My life has changed ever since. I don't feel depressed anymore and I sleep better. My quality of life improved since the surgery. Face matters, guys. Don't let other people tell you otherwise. Edit. Looks like I triggered people because my experience doesn't fit their narrative. U/Icom Tarantulas responded. I think I got brought into the ideology due to a mixture of the friends I had in high school and just a bad string of failed relationships due to high school girls being high school girls, and just being in an overall toxic environment due to having a narcissistic mother. What honestly started getting me out of it was in the past 2 years or so giving up on finding someone long-term and going the Tinder occupied route, looking for someone to just have a fun with. Met one girl through Tinder, had a lot of fun, she went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and we split, which started the feelings come back, got stood up 2 or 3 times, which really started bringing the old incel red pill feelings back. Next girl I met is my current fiancé, and anytime I would say something nice guy like she'd call me out on it. So it finally made me wake up and see what I was doing. U/deleted responded. Not sure what brought me in at the time, but I've always had trouble maintaining relationships with women. For the record back then I'm pretty sure the term incel didn't exist, or at least LD never heard it. I was 22 when I finally did some self-reflection and took responsibility for my actions. It took a couple of years of maintaining that attitude for it to stick. It took a lot of mindfulness to understand where my hatred came from. Surprise, surprise, it's mommy issues. I'm not out of the woods yet. While my woman-hating days are over, I still find myself attracted to while also attracting the worst kinds of women imaginable. 2 breakups in a year and a half due to being cheated on both times has left me wondering what the fuck is wrong with me. So there will be therapy followed by more self-reflection for the next few years until I can figure out the other root causes, because at this point I have no idea. What's strange is that in the past I was always the one to derail my relationships by being critical, controlling and an all-around asshole. Now the tables have turned and I don't know why. I may still be fucked up with renewed trust issues, but the women-hating days are over, as are the passive-aggressive nice guy days. You/deleted responded. So am I an incel if I held contempt for dating, not individual rejection as I never took the bat off my shoulder, in high school due to the petty drama surrounding all of it? I never hated the girls for any reason except when one of them would start some shit with someone I considered a friend, which is pretty realistic, right? I'll admit that if I caught wind of some petty drama unrelated to me, LD quickly form an opinion of the person perpetrating it. I try not to do that anymore as I'm usually wrong about half the time. People, right? I just couldn't relate to their immaturity, all while being somewhat antisocial at the same time. I don't like being the center of attention, so I just avoided it. I'm now 20 and work a 45 hours per week job and am usually too beat after work to make any effort at meeting new people apart from cashiers and waitresses through small talk which never goes anywhere cause I never try to take it anywhere but maybe a compliment or some quick convo. Never a direct inquision of a future relationship. I don't really know how. Because of that, I usually fall back on longtime friends and their friends, which is starting to get old cause most of them are still the same as they were in high school, sort of immature and impulsive. Which is bad cause I'm probably about to withdraw from my only friendships outside of work. Half of which is my family-owned tech shop. I never took the opportunity in HS to date cause it was overwhelming and displeasing all at the same time. I can't work this out. I'm not asking for a book of a response, just some insight that might help me figure out this crazy life. You/deleted responded. I'm just a bitter and angry person by default, especially towards my failures and women, and that's what attracted me towards a certain popular incel forum. I mostly use anonymous forums, which are great but you can't really form any kind of connections over them and that missing element feels a bit weird after a while. It's strange to be posting in the same places for so many years and lack any connection to another individual human being. What brought me out of it was getting the impression after a while that these people were mostly just a bunch of children. I didn't like talking with them because I found them too whiny and mopey, and it's a bit ridiculous when someone who's 18 or 19 or 20 is complaining about still being a virgin. I think it was a mistake to ever call myself a part of this specific community. You/but_a_simple_petunia responded. Not sure if I qualify as an incel, as LVE only recently learned such term existed, but I sure do fit the definition of it. 26 years old virgin and not by choice. I don't feel any resentment towards women in general, because admittedly I'm not as proactive as I should be. But TBH, LV been reflecting back at my past relationships with my former female friends and crushes, and I do see a pattern that makes me resent them specifically. I know, it's stupid, only times they'd contact me after periods of absence were when they needed me, e.g. fight with boyfriend, vent about stuff, when they had no other plans etc. I feel LVE been used as none of them have contacted me in years. I don't keep grudge and think about them every day. This thread just reminded me of my status and thought LD share. You/the Doctorlson responded. I was the nice guy. Not really incel since that didn't exist at the time, and I definitely never hated women in general, but there were times I came close. One day I was pitying myself and saw someone said girls aren't vending machines where you put nice coins in and get sex out. It wasn't even directed at me, it just was. And something just switched. I worked on myself and became more confident and less focused on what women thought of me. I started dating a girl and it didn't work out, so I dated another girl and that didn't work out, etc. But it wasn't because of me, it was just because we weren't compatible. And that's how it goes sometimes. But the important thing is I'm now happy with who I am and spending time working on myself instead of fawning over various stases. That's the term, yeah? Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Leave your own stories down below, I would love to read them. If you would like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe, it helps me out greatly.